When you want to buy a house, there are two teams. You, the buyer, who is trying to save as much as possible, and the seller, who is trying to gain as much as possible. So how do we ensure that it's a fair game? Well, that, my friends, is the referee, the middleman, also known as the escrow officer. And they do so much more that you should know. So in this episode, I will be talking to my friend Sandra. She is an escrow officer and she's done hundreds of transactions per month. And she's going to explain to you how she referees the game of real estate. Thank you so much for joining us, Sandra.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so I am an escrow officer. I have been working in the title and escrow industry for the last 3.5 years. Love it. It is a very, unique position in the real estate transaction. I get to work with buyers and sellers, their agents, lenders. It's like a really good position for anybody who likes to communicate, and I love to over communicate. So love that part of my job. It does come with a very serious, responsibility. We are insuring title insurance for properties. So it's a very serious job, but I take it with love and light. I love what I do, and I get to, hold everybody's hand through the process and make sure everybody feels good from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, no, you all do a lot, and a lot of people actually, especially first-time home buyers, they don't know what title is or what escrow is. How would you define what escrow is?
Yeah, I always love the saying, welcome to escrow. It's an exciting thing to get to say to someone because everybody knows that's a really big life experience, and what it is, after a real estate transaction has a signed bona fide offer, you're ordering your title insurance, your escrow. So you're basically beginning the process of securing everybody's position in the real estate transaction, seller, buyer, agent, lender, everybody, you're basically ordering protection for everybody. And that's where we come in.
Yeah, I see it more like you're a referee.
Yeah.
Because there's this side, the buyers, and then there's this other side, the sellers, and they're all just trying to, make it through the whole game.
Yeah.
But you make sure that everyone is on check.
Yes.
And a lot of people forget about that.
Yes, I do think we're kind of
underappreciated.
Underappreciated.
Absolutely.
Or just overlooked, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing, though, because we are essentially a neutral third party to the whole transaction. So we're kind of in the background. I mean, we're getting a lot done. We're making sure legal procedures are being followed. Documentation is all where and as it should be. But we are that third neutral party. So we're kind of in the background. We do coordinate with everybody. So we're very much a real part of it.
Yeah.
We're just kind of behind the scenes, which I think the ideal closing experience should feel that way. Because as you may know, when things aren't quite as smooth as we'd like them to go, everybody is very well of the escrow presence and what the work takes to get us to closing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, there's so many stories.
Yeah.
And, you started at you started pre-COVID, was it?
Yes. Well, in the middle of COVID. It's
Oh,
kind of what it
started-
felt like. Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, so you've seen it all happen. You've
Yes.
seen like a lot of transactions. You were telling me at 1 month you guys were doing how much?
Oh, over 100. We've had over 100 transactions in a month, and that was with refinances, sales as well. But yeah, it was booming.
Yeah, and just to give 100 sounds like a lot, but that's like 100 lives.
Yes.
That's 100 lives, 100 homes. That is just so many things at stake, and
Yes.
not just families, but their agents, and then the other side, and then their lenders.
Yes.
How'd you cope with that?
Well, a little bit about me. I played in an orchestra for 7 years of my life. So to say that I know how to work in a symphony and just orchestrate, I feel like that's where it came from. I mean, yes, you are, as the escrow officer, you are juggling many parties of the transaction, and everybody should be handled with care and the utmost importance. So yes, it's a challenge. I think it's right for the right person. I can tell you, I don't think everybody's made to do this because it does come with a lot of pressure. It takes high organization skills to do it well. And so it's really good for someone like me. I love working with people, the more the merrier. And like you described, there's a lot of people involved, especially with that kind of a volume. But it was a really great experience. Obviously, we're not in that market anymore where it's quite as chaotic,
right.
yes. But it did teach me that I'm capable of it, and I know how to coordinate through it and make sure that also, all transactions are closing smoothly, successfully. My famous thing, after a really crazy day is everybody's happy. And that is the most important. I may feel like a train wreck at the end of the day because, you're coordinating and you're waiting on funds and you're doing all these things that's what the escrow company does. We're securing that all the funds in the transaction it's being transferred, things are flowing. So it comes with a lot. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's 100 families either selling, buying, investing. There's always a story, as much as people may think, oh, that's an investor, he's probably bought in 15, 25, maybe so, but they're actually really excited because this is planning their future. And so I do love to get to hear the emotional stories behind it, because oftentimes in escrow, we don't hear that. As the agent, you'll probably get to have that opportunity to have that story as to what led them there. And sometimes in closings, we don't get that, We have a lot of resources now because of COVID. There's signings where you don't even have to come into the office. Cash buyers can sign electronically, wire funds. We can close and never meet someone, which I don't love that part, but convenience is amazing, especially with where we are, which I would say is post-COVID. We've changed as far as what we expect with remote and accessibility, convenience. So it's a rewarding job, but it comes with its challenges with the coordinating and making sure that everything is moving seamlessly. However, it needs to be for every person,
Yeah. So now we know that escrow is basically I love how you said it. It's an orchestra. It's like they make sure everyone's playing fair. Everything is dispersed to the right individual, because you really can't trust the buyer or the seller to do, because they're at their own interest, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What have you? What do you think? Future homeowners should know about escrow, because obviously you open the transaction, right? What should they be cautious about, or what should they be alert or proactive about?
Absolutely. It's important for buyers and sellers to be prepared. I feel like when they have a real estate agent, they're more prepared than, say, for sell by owners. But when you're opening a title and escrow order, be prepared to receive some phone calls and emails, whatever, based off your community. First, we're going to find out how you prefer to communicate.
Yes.
And then once we find that out, watch those communications, because in case we need anything, we're going to be reaching out, and you don't want to delay that. Yes, sometimes you'll sign your purchase and sale agreement and you're not closing until the end of the next month or the beginning of the next month. So you feel like you have time, but I feel like timing is of the essence. And to have all the information, the sooner the better. I mean, I'm sure a lender would agree. Everybody would agree. Being responsive, watching communications, having documentations, for example, if you're selling for an estate or a trust, have those documents ready, because they will be needed. Yeah. And so just being prepared as far as having all of your ducks in order for that transaction. If you're buying, make sure your funds are ready, get that all coordinated. If you're selling, make sure all your documents are ready, and be responsive in communication. I think communication is the most important part, because a lot of the things that we can take over the phone if we need to, or you can come in and give me all the information and it's kind of like a one and done. But if it doesn't move so smoothly, then things can be delayed, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you mentioned even lawyers and judgments get involved. It's you can't just buy a house. It has to go through a lot of steps, and that's the cool thing about escrow. You guys do that for us and make sure that everything's played fair, that everything is correct. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Title and escrow is two parts: title insurance and then the escrow process. So, we're insuring the title. We want the title department is doing a full research project on this property to make sure that the new owner is buying a clean and clear property, and protecting the seller that their property is clean and clear. So we minimize risk for everybody involved, which is what more could you ask for, right?
Yeah, I know. That's what you need.
Thank goodness it's been invented, because it protects everybody involved. And as you may know, real estate transactions can happen without escrow involved. You know, people can quick claim property over to each other,
That's crazy.
do those things. And in the end, they may be having more cleanup to do because it wasn't done correctly. And so it's like, it is a service that you pay for, but it saves you in the long run. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth it. Yeah, I've heard stories where like some people just find out that like they don't even own the home.
Yeah.
And
I've had to have those conversations before.
And they've been making the payments, and it's like, oh my goodness, like
yes,
either they didn't use an agent, or I'm surprised, like why wouldn't you use escrow? Like
yeah, I know,
it's so important,
right? I mean, I had an experience where it was a client that we've closed for before, but this was an investment property, and the seller at the time didn't want to use escrow, and so he wanted to know his options. And obviously, we cannot be involved unless all parties agree. You know, we don't work for anybody; we work for everybody. And so I explained to him to have the conversation. Buyers have the option to pay for it if it's a seller that doesn't want to pay for it. If financing is involved, obviously that has to be approved by the lender, but it does still protect. And of course, when there's lenders involved, you can't get away without escrow. But it's the cash transactions, it's the quick claim deeds, it's the real estate contracts that aren't being recorded. But it's important to do it the right way because life is unexpected, and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And if for some reason someone passes away and things weren't done correctly, it's going to make a mess for whoever is managing that. And we like to, you know, offer that protection before it gets to that place. And the good thing about it is, as if you are continuously using escrow, you're always protected. It makes other companies feel more comfortable to work with the property too, because it's been insured. So it's important, and everybody's looking for it as far as the professionals in the industry go. And any opportunity that I get to educate someone that, you know, maybe a for sale by owner walk in, explain to them the importance of having the professionals in the process, because they minimize risk, and that's what we want when we're investing or selling, you know, hundreds of $1,000s properties.
Oh yeah, millions,
you know,
even.
millions.
Oh my goodness. How would you, so now we talked a little bit about like, you know, the buyer side. What about like homeowners? What should they be aware of when they're starting to sell their home?
Yeah.
And where title fits in?
Yeah. Well, like I had said, you know, seller, just have your documents ready. If you have a mortgage, have that information ready. If you inherited the property through, let's say, a quick claim deed or something like that, just be very ready to see that title report, because it may have never been run against the property since you inherited. So just be aware. We research the property, so it's all based off public record. And like you said, sometimes buyers and sellers don't really understand what can tie to a property once you're in escrow. So for a seller, you know, if you've ever filed bankruptcy, if you've ever been in foreclosure or, you know, delinquent taxes, just know those things are going to come up and be prepared. Oftentimes, like you had mentioned, judgments. Sellers aren't aware that those can tie to your property, they do. And it's a terrible surprise once they're ready to sell their home for whatever reason they're ready to sell. And then here comes a $10,000 judgment. And it can be anything, you know.
What is a judgment, by the way?
So there's different federal tax liens, labor and industry, unemployment, things like that can tie against your property.
Isn't one like child support too?
Child support as well, definitely. And even if you're in current standing, if there is a judgment order for child support, we're going to find it based off our research, and it's a cloud on title. So if you're buying cash, you may be able to, you know, buy it subject to that as long as you're taking care of it, but be aware that it could be a lien on your property. But if you're a seller, it has to get paid. And a lot of times that is not expected, you know, because most of the time child support is a payment plan. And so once we are in closing, there's no more payment time. It needs to be paid by the time we close. Usually paid through closing. But yes, it's always a surprise when they see that show up and they didn't expect it. I mean, even credit cards can lien your property.
Man, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're planning to sell your home, you better have your ducks
in a row. That's what I say. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But if you're in escrow, we're going to definitely talk you through it. We're going to hold your hand, make sure, you know, we'll have those conversations for you. There are some, I can say, like, companies that won't communicate. Like, we won't reach out to your attorneys. We'd rather you do that, because you do get charged if we have to reach out to an attorney for whatever reason. So if there's a bankruptcy or a divorce, we're going to let you know what we need and let you gather that to kind of minimize any costs that could come with that. But with judgments, we have to reach out to attorneys' offices, and then that takes time. So having your documents and ducks in order, if you know, as an agent, as a buyer, as a seller, everybody should be receiving their copy of the title report. So review it when it comes in, because I mean, it's great when there's nothing to worry about, but if there is, you want to be aware of it sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
And you get that title report like within like what, 3 days after you go under contract?
We like to say up to 7 days, but it's less than that.
I mean, you're doing research.
Yeah, we're doing research. It's all happening as soon as you order it. It's just depending on, you know, the last time the property was sold, or, you know, if it's a new construction, just depending on what we're going to have to look into, it really determines how long it will take. So most of the time we can get it done in less than a week, but if it's a really good research project, it may take the 7 days.
I'm curious, are new construction transactions just much more easier?
They do seem easier, yes, because, you know, the builder has gone through their own process to, you know, either subdivide or develop the property. So insurance has already been issued on the land, which is good. Oftentimes, the only thing that, as far as escrow, has to take care of is if there's any, you know, work that needs to be paid. Right. You know, make sure we get everybody that has worked on the property signing releases so that, confirming that they've been paid, they will not be filing any liens against the property. But with builders, you know, once they kind of begin their process on a big development, you know, they kind of have like a master file where we already have all of their documents. We can just keep moving forward. And it does make things a little bit smoother. But I mean, they can be challenging as well.
Okay.
If the builder didn't do it, you know, all the steps that they should have.
Right.
But again, we can help them and explain to them what needs to be done and seek the right channel to get that.
Title is your referee. It sounds like your friend.
Yeah, your cheerleaders too.
Cheerleaders too.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming, Sandra.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Is there any last things that you want to share or that people you think that should know about?
You know, just definitely seek your professionals when you are wanting to buy or sell. Seek advice. Make sure you do all your homework before you make those decisions. You know, buyers, if they're going to finance, get that pre-approval in. Sellers, I would always advise to reach out to an agent, because your agent can order your pre-title. We can see what we're really working with before you're even under contract. And then that ensures that everybody has a pretty good experience as far as that property either being bought or sold.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming, Sandra.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.